Greetings. Ready to go? Start a new week today. Right here on Black Facts. Black Facts Headquarters Central. We're bringing to you another installment of Doc Ock at noon and 9. Hopefully everybody's feeling real fine out there in live stream land. Now, today we got a surprise. We got something new for you today. Something new, something old, but we promise not to give you something blue because we ain't about to sing the blues up in here today. Not doing that today. So the proverb for today is really more of a short quote from Frederick Douglass, none other than, "The fact that we have endured wrongs and hardships which would have destroyed any other race and have increased in numbers and public consideration ought to strengthen our faith in ourselves and our future." Frederick Douglass, a little quote from Frederick Douglass to get us off on the right foot this morning. And then we're going to move to a poem today by Sister Stajabu. And the poem today is Giving Thanks and Praises. Giving thanks and praises, because we're giving thanks and praises that we are still around, giving thanks and praises that we don't always have to clown, that we can do some serious work as well. Not just for others, but even for ourselves. And that's what we're about to do over here today. We're about to do something for ourselves and our children. Giving thanks and praise. When I woke up this morning, I had love on my mind, a real strong feeling of love on my mind. I was feeling full to bursting with the most intense love of life, love of family. Love was swelling up inside of me like a water balloon, making me want to shower this love on the world, a world I loved this day with all its good, bad, beauty, flaws, and imperfections. There was a grateful, loving feeling for the bus driver, the nice, clean bus, the iPod, listening, texting, email, checking, Kindle, paperback, newspaper, and magazine reading, talking loud on their cell phone, staring into space, heads lolling and nodding, passengers riding with me. I felt love for the beautiful country landscapes and busy, colorful city scenes along the route to my office. And oh, how I loved my job today because it provides me with money, which I love so much to have and which makes my pleasant and peaceful life enriched and enables me to share something like this poem right here with others like you and your mothers. I knew this day would be filled with love because when I woke up this morning, I had love on my mind and was giving thanks and praises to the Most High for love in all its many and varied forms and for the realization that I am love. I am loved, and love is visible, tangible, audible, and very, very real. And that's the deal. Straight from the mouth of the poet Stajabu, one of the straight out scribes, always bringing us them good vibes. Each and every day we get thanks for Sister Stajabu. That's right. We're going to pump the sisters up. Okay. Now, today, we're going to read something from a new book. This book is called African American Voices of Triumph. African American Voices of Triumph. I'm always finding books around this house. I mean, it's not even a book I even knew I actually had. I just saw a stack of books on the floor and said, let me just pull one of these books and see what's in here. Now, this one is done just for your information. This one is, and it's got a very pretty piece. I'm going to show you this piece right here, because most of us think of kente cloth, and all we think of are some little bitty strips. Well, you take those little bitty strips and you sew them together, and you get a woven, it looks like a woven tapestry. And these kente cloths, these full cloths like this, are actually like chevrons, or they're like a our shield, okay, in battle, or not necessarily in battle, but like our shield, in that when you go forth in public and you're wearing one of these kente cloths, people can look at the pattern and the colors on your kente cloth and be able to tell a lot about you. They'll know who your family is, they'll know where you're from, they'll know all about a number of different things about who you are by looking at the intricate patterns and colors on your cloth. And they'll be able to sum it up and do that like in 5 seconds. It ain't like they're gonna have to sit there and like look all hard and try to figure it out. It's not like that. Okay. All right. So yeah, I mean, it's equivalent to if I saw somebody coming down the street with the rebel flag on their hat. Okay. I got a good idea of who they are and where they coming from. I ain't got to stare at that all daggone day trying to figure it out. Right. So this book is was done by a number of people, but it looks like, of course, they always want to tout up Skippy over here. This is Skippy. We call him Skip Gates. Okay. Some people call him Henry. We call him Skip. That's why there's people that know him, they call him Skip. Okay. And we've been knowing him for years and years and years. So along with him on this editorial board were Dr. Maya Angelou and Ruth Love and Dorothy Height, Gordon Park. So these are folks that I know that you probably, some of y'all out there will know. Reverend Calvin Butts, maybe not so much, but you do know this one over here. And I see here that he's in here over here. Yeah, Ben Carson. Yeah, that was back in the day before he totally lost his mind and powers of observation and ability to think. And then there's a bunch of other peoples over here on the board of consultants, including Russell L. Adams, who has a very good original book out there for the youth, and Dr. Ron Walters. So just so you know where the book is coming from, I thought I would let y'all know that. And then the other part I'm going to show you real quick here is this map right here. Now, you see that map right there? See the map? Okay. So the Songhai Empire basically is this area here. That's the light brown area. So you see that this light brown area here? Well, that's equivalent to probably Texas and maybe one other state. Maybe Texas and Alaska combined together would take to fill this whole area here that covered the extent of the Songhai Empire. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the Songhai Empire. We might have talked about it before on here. I can't recall, but just trying to give you an idea. Oh, and by the way, the Sahara is right here, right? The Great Desert, the Sahara is right up here, all across here. This is the Sahara. Okay, so it's a pretty desolate area, but people live there, and we had great empires there. So today we're going to read a story about school in a place called Timbuktu, and that's probably a place you only ever heard of. You heard of on TV or something, but you never really knew where Timbuktu was because they just said, "Oh, it's so far away," you know, from here to Timbuktu. So let's see, how many of these can I read? Okay, I can do 2. Okay, I do 2. The Songhai seat of power. After toppling Sunni Baru, Askia Muhammad faced a daunting challenge: how to rebind the pieces of the empire with the glue of good government. In 1495, 2 years after gaining power, he made Hajj, or a pilgrimage to Mecca, where he met and befriended Muslim scholars. Upon gaining an understanding of Islamic government, he decided to construct his administration according to its principles, although the Songhai monarchy itself rested on a traditional African concept of divine kingship. Now, just for your information, just because somebody is a Muslim in Africa does not mean that they abandon the ancestral practices that they already had in terms of honoring their ancestors. Okay, so this is more like an add-on. You know, it's like having a Cadillac, and then you say, "Yeah, I want a Cadillac, but I want one with a sunroof, top diamond in the back." Woo woo, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. To ensure the defense of his realm, Askia Muhammad first established a full-time professional army. That was the first thing he did. Number one, establish an army, because you got to be able to defend yourself from attacks, because they're going to come. Okay, you already know that. Then he turned to the empire's internal organization, creating a layered form of government. Askia Muhammad ruled from a tusk-flanked throne, which you can see here in the picture. You can see his tusk-flanked throne. Okay, this is the artist depiction. He wasn't there. He don't know what it looked like. He's just guessing. In Gao, where he held audiences with emissaries from distant states, meditated on the wisdom of the Quran as verses were recited by Islamic scholars, and received petitions from the peoples of his empire. Below the throne itself were ranked the governors of the 4 regions into which he divided his empire. Each region was in turn divided into provinces run by provincial chiefs. But the empire's true strength lay in a social structure that spelled out everyone's duties. And with a standing army guarding its borders, the empire's farmers, merchants, fishermen, livestock breeders, and artisans could concentrate on being productive in their vocations. Even the griots, or the jawel, as we actually call them, members of a hereditary caste of storytellers, a hereditary caste of historians. Let me get that right. I have to remember I'm reading out of Skip Gates' book, so he would say it that way. Who preserved the people's history by passing it orally from generation to generation, had a responsibility in imperial society beyond their traditional role. The jawel were expected to weave glorious tales about the empire's past military exploits to boost the morale of the Songhai soldiers before battle and in the heat of combat. Slaves occupied the lowest rung of society, but their servitude took an African form in which race was irrelevant, and bondsmen were no less human than other workers. Slaves were not simply units of property, but could rise on the basis of their service and had the security of knowing that their children could not be sold away from them. So let me just clarify this whole idea of these so-called slaves, okay? Again, you have to remember the source. Consider the source. And the source of this book is coming out of the head, or at least it's had the editorial overlooking of Skip Gates. And I know how he thinks, so I'm going to reinterpret some things here as we go along, okay? In progress. And so this so-called slavery was not slavery with the chains and the whips and the rapes and all these other kind of things that we think of that go along with slavery. In fact, this was a way that people had established of taking care of the quote unquote less fortunate, to make sure everybody in the society got taken care of. There was if people were captured in battle, then they would become servants, not so much slaves, but servants. And yeah, you could trade them, swap them, sell them, so-called, whatever. But for the most part, we're talking about people who were servants. And this is how they were taken care of, because in exchange for their work, they got fed and they got clothed and they got the protection of the whoever it was that they were serving. Okay. And that's how it goes. It's still today in countries like Jamaica and various African countries, etc. This is a common practice that you hire those who are less fortunate to work for you as a quote unquote maid, housekeeper, nanny, chauffeur, whatever. You hire them, and that's a way of taking care of those people and making sure everybody has something, that nobody is out there starving because they are born into they weren't born into a prominent family, etc. Okay, so That's why he's saying this part here about they had the security of knowing that their children could not be sold away from them, because it wasn't slavery it wasn't chattel slavery, where the status of your children was determined by their mother. And therefore, if their mother had been a servant, then they were going to be a servant, and they were forever, the whole family line from then on was doomed to nothing but servitude. That's a different kind of situation. And that's why I wouldn't call it slavery. I'd call it servitude. So we have to remember that all these things are being interpreted through a particular kind of a mind, and they can lead us to a particular kind of conclusion if we just accept exactly what they say, word for word, verbatim. So we didn't get to the part about Timbuktu, School of the Empire, but we will do that piece tomorrow. So this is going to be our book for the week. Okay, African Voices of Triumph. So we're going to go through that book a little bit this week. We'll come back to that. In the meantime, this is Doc Ock signing off, because my time is up, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, because then you won't be happy as a pup. And I want everybody out there to be happy as a newborn pup. So remember, you're thinking now about your children and what's going to happen to them in terms of school. Tune back in tomorrow. We'll talk about how we founded not only our own schools, but our own universities. Okay, this is something that we can do, because everything that our children need to know is within them, and all the resources that they need to bring those things out are widely available, 9 times out of 10 for free. We just have to put our mind to the task. Okay, put our mind to the task. Watch a few less shows in the evening, a little bit less of Who's Gonna Be a Star, or Whose World Is It, or whatever it is that you watch. A little bit less of that, a little more focus on our youth, because our youth are an investment. Because when we get old and gray like I am right now, you want to be thinking about who's going to take care of you and what kind of wherewithal are they going to have to take care of you. Think about that. Between now and the next time I see you, peace out. Without a doubt, this is Doc Ock signing off.